Hi, this is Michael. I wanted to give you a quick introduction to my course in information architecture by giving you an example of a site that might help reveal some of the concepts that we're going to cover in this quarter. And you kind of break down, you might not be used to looking at websites or data in this manner. So I think I can break it down for you, make it a little bit easier to get oriented as to the kind of goals that we're going to look for. And for example, I found this site which is called the 1001 Albums Generator. So, one thing we start with when we're thinking about organizing data is we want a lot of it. So, 1001. It's not an infinite amount of data, but it's enough to make it worthwhile to start to see bigger pictures, patterns, and other things that are going to help us and the user find the information that they might be looking for. So, good stuff. Now, here is our pyramid. The pyramid is just there to say at the bottom, you have to start at the bottom. You have to start with data, and then each effort you make will try to push it up to the top of this in terms of value to users and or value in general, right? Because there's a lot of this. And we're going to start with this because this is the one part where if you're not used to building databases, this could be something that's a little bit tricky, but we're going to do it together and we're going to use this site as an example. So I have a account already built here. We're going to talk about identity over here as a whole different database, but it's absolutely critical. Let's see if I can get rid of some shadows here. Sort of. Anyway, so there's another whole world of data called identity, which can give a personalization or other things to a site, but we're not going to deal with that till the end of the class. So let's just pretend that you came here. Speaking of pretending you came here, what you're going to see is one thing. Right now, you're seeing Blonde on Blonde, which is a record. It's about albums that you should listen to. It's recommending things, but we're going to see how it uses the core data of a record album in order to build a whole bunch of other things. So as we confuse ourselves a little bit to begin with, I did log in. It does have only one site per day. So this is a daily site. Daily, here we go. Dailies mean that every day you enter the site, it changes. Now, that's a great concept of information architecture. It means you don't have to go find a lot of things. In this example, I think it works well just to simplify what we'll definitely deal with, which is how do you find things. So either way, I come here every day and I see a different record. What does the data? What is the data? So let's say our database. And this is just as you might imagine, it is going to be fields. It's going to have a relationship. Some of these items might have different kinds of attributes to them. So let's take a look. So first of all, we've got an album cover, which is an image. Images, by the way, are almost always going to be referenced. They have to be because in your tool Airtable, you get to actually see the image, but that's kind of faked. Everything is always a reference. It's always text in a database, but nice things happen because of the technology we live in. They make things a little easier for you. But either way, there's an image, which is good. There's also a album title. I can see that up there. There's an artist. Cool. I see the word Wikipedia. I don't know what reviews means. We'll explore that in a second. And then there's listening links. This is like to Spotify. So my idea is for every record in this, they've found a link to a streaming service, which is pretty nice of them. And then as we go further down, we see the image and we see these listening notes. That seems to be on top of the core data. But let's take a look at what the extra data might be. I'm sorry, did I get a year of release? Release year. Okay, so far, an album consists of a cover, a title, an artist, and links to different resources. And let's see if we can see a little bit more here. If we go to reviews, here we've got some more links. Let's take a look. almost the same. And by the way, one thing about this site that I do like is it's not particularly designed. It's kind of, it's got it could use a little design in terms of a hierarchy, but we're not going to worry too much until we get up this pyramid. But we do see we have a buy link. That's fine. And then we have a summary. All right, so that summary is text. And if I scroll down here, oh, here we go. We start to see some more things that we don't need, but we do see genre. Okay, perfect. Great. So I think we are pretty good with the core data. I'm going to call it core because in a sense, we're going to build other data on top of this data. You have to have this as your basis. We have 1,001, we could have 1,000,000, we could have 1,000,000,000 records, but you still need something that satisfies this sort of core idea. So we've got all these fields here that we've noticed. We could then take examples from this one instance and put that in our table, but more likely we're going to start to see either a resource that's already built out for us, so we could just find record album names, for example, or we could also scrape data. We're going to find many different ways of getting data, but it looks pretty much like this. It also should, to a information architect or anyone else, make some sense. Should be understandable, readable. The words should make sense. These sort of names of columns, should always be something that we understand. So we're working with this. So then we go into our next world, which is pattern. So with pattern, what we tend to look for are things, if every record is unique, which is absolutely essential for a database. So I'll pause. Databases can't have duplicates in them. Now, do these duplicates, what meaning do they have? If you ever worked with data, you'll probably realize that duplication and garbage and misunderstood records, it just comes with the territory. So I would say, just to be sure, when we're looking at our data, what would need to be unique? And I kind of think if you have 1,000 albums, the album title should be unique. That doesn't make much sense that you would have the name of 2 albums, although you probably need to add the artist just to make sure, because 2 artists could name their album Greatest Hits, or something like that. But something there means that you have uniqueness, but what else does, album covers should be unique. If you had the same album cover, that'd be confusing. But really, we're looking for something, well, what can group records together? Well, I'm going to say one of the biggest patterns I can see so far is genre. Those are grouping concepts. So how do you see things in a group? And we looked here, and I think there's 3 genres, which is great. You don't have to have one of anything, but 3 different genres is a little bit more inclusive in this particular record. You could call it any one of these 3 and not necessarily be wrong. And there's lots of genres. Part of the exploration we're going to have into this pattern area is understanding taxonomies and genres. It's pretty fun. There's all sorts of existing ones, and sometimes you can even make them up, which is neat. These links aren't too important to pattern. I will say artist is another pattern because artists can be used to group if they made more than one record, like Bob has. All that's good. So we've got our identification of pattern. Now all we need to do is turn it into information. Information to me is about hierarchy. So I'll just, whoops, I'll just put the word hierarchy here. Hierarchy, what's more important than another? That's also provides you with context. If you're skimming a bunch of things, right now, part of our hierarchy is taken away because this is only 1 record per day. But if you could start to look into histories and look into other things, which we'll get to in a second, you'll find that there's actually a lot going on. So hierarchy is important. I would say right now we can say that the album title has the biggest hierarchy, which is fine. It's a big piece. It would be a heading, and it displays as a heading. I'd also say artist is a subheading, so maybe we're going to talk about hierarchies. If this is H1, this might be H2. You need a hierarchy of something informing another thing. And this can be debatable. Sometimes I would say the hierarchy is actually artist over record because the artist made the record, but you can debate this amongst yourselves because hierarchies are really invented. And that's one thing that we explore in the class. Like, how do you invent and understand hierarchies? I guess we could also say an H2 or an H3 would be this record cover. It seems pretty prominent. And then past that, genre might actually be part of our hierarchy as well, but we're going to use some different ways in order to explore how to actually indicate those hierarchies. And so for the information phase, that is going to be consumable by either a computer or a human. Most likely it's a computer, which is another topic we'll get into in depth, right? Computers are actually looking at this information probably a little bit more critically than people are, and that's how SEO works and other kinds of things like that. Now, last of all, or finally, how do you turn information into knowledge? So let's explore a little bit here. For one, we have this concept of reviews, which is absolutely perfect. So we've got an identity, we've got a review database that it's created that has text in it, whereas it also seems to have date and author. So these are all on top of our record. And they are connecting identity review, and we'll have, our core is a record. 1001 of them, I guess, right? So we've got 3 databases at least, but we're still starting with records as our topic because otherwise none of this other stuff would be necessary. So reviews, hey, we've got a numeric. So we've got quantitative, and that's numbers, 1, 2, 3, and such, and qualitative. And that's like star rating, I guess, is kind of qualitative and numeric, but we'll say, out of 4 out of 5 or whatever the rating is here. You can also see that you can use numeric and other data in order to sort things. Right now, I'm assuming we're sorting by this likes. You can like a comment, and that also gives a sort of an under the counter feel. So what is all this? This is metadata. So metadata is data about data. And that just means you can build lots of different kinds of metadata. Metadata kind of makes the whole world go around in terms of the internet because we have a limited amount of focus time. So we need things to be either numerically or in other ways rated and ranked for us. So when we get into a page or something like that that's personalized, we're able to see things that we're more familiar with, and that lowers the amount of cognitive load and makes people happier. However, you can go to a site like the New York Times. It might not be personalized for you. That doesn't mean that metadata doesn't play a role. It might play a role in terms of how they might switch out content during the day. Maybe there's some other kind of algorithms. So either way, the whole idea of knowledge goes into metadata, which is able to give you a bigger picture as to what is happening. Now, in terms of wisdom, that comes last in the course. That has a lot to do with maybe the future. As things are organized really well, can they do things that influence you or make you do things? But I'm going to leave that for the class. Right now, hopefully this is a quick view. We start with data, we try to understand it, we look for patterns and hierarchies. Informations is all this in a format that is readable or understandable fairly quickly. So there's a lot of patterns that we're going to work with to make that understandable. And then knowledge is all about taking identities and metadata about how people behave. That allows us to build all sorts of value for the user, such as different kinds of statistics. And once you can get people to engage, see, we've got all sorts of voting going on here. It starts to build community and build basically off of fairly little and something that is also very easily repeatable. So you can maybe not be too intimidated by this because of its design and its goals, but it is really functional. It has all the pieces in it, and hopefully it was a good introduction to the kind of experiments that you're going to have and the kind of things you're going to build in the course. Hope it was helpful. Thanks.